Have you ever wondered what it takes to defy an empire? To spark a revolution with nothing but courage? To challenge the world and win? Rules weren't just made to be broken. These women shattered them. They faced down armies, governments, and entire systems of oppression. And guess what? They didn't just survive, they changed history. Welcome to our countdown of the top 10 badass rebel women who changed history. Get ready to meet warriors, spies, suffragists, and outlaws who refuse to be forgotten. Let's dive in. Number 10. Queen Nzinga, the diplomat warrior who outsmarted empires. Long before the world ever heard of decolonization, Queen Nzinga of Ndongo and Matamba was already resisting European invasion. Born in 1583 in what is now Angola, Nzinga was raised in a royal court surrounded by political conflict and war. The Portuguese were expanding their colonial grip, enslaving her people and seizing lands. When her brother's leadership faltered under pressure, Nzinga stepped up not just as a negotiator, but as a force of nature. Legend has it that during a meeting with Portuguese officials, they refused to offer her a seat. Unbothered, Nzinga motioned to a servant, who knelt down so she could sit on his back, making it clear she would not kneel to anyone. But Nzinga wasn't just about symbolic gestures. She formed alliances with nearby tribes, converted to Christianity strategically to earn favor, and led troops into battle. She held off the Portuguese for decades, even into her 70s. By the time she died in 1663, Nzinga had not only resisted colonization, she'd built a legacy of sovereignty, strength, and strategic brilliance. Number 9. Dolores Huerta, the voice that echoed through fields. Si se puede. You've heard that phrase, but do you know who coined it? Dolores Huerta, born in 1930 in New Mexico, wasn't just an activist. She was a storm wrapped in compassion. Co-founder of the United Farm Workers alongside Cesar Chavez, Dolores gave voice to the voiceless migrant workers who toiled in the fields without fair wages, basic rights, or safety. But it wasn't easy. She was arrested over 20 times. She was beaten by police at protests. She received death threats. Still, she never backed down. In a male-dominated labor movement, Huerta was often sidelined, but her organizing skills were undeniable. She negotiated contracts, led boycotts, and inspired a national movement. Her work helped shape labor laws and civil rights protections that endure to this day. And when she said "Si se puede," yes, we can, it wasn't just a slogan. It was a declaration of war on injustice. Number 8. Noor Inayat Khan, the spy who refused to break. She was a pacifist, a poet, a princess, and one of the bravest spies the world has ever known. Noor Inayat Khan, born in 1914 to an Indian Sufi family in Moscow, might seem like an unlikely secret agent. But during World War II, she became the first female radio operator sent into Nazi-occupied France by the British Special Operations Executive. She knew the job came with a death sentence. Radio operators had an average life expectancy of just 6 weeks, but Noor lasted months. Operating under the codename Madeline, she transmitted critical intel to the Allies while evading Gestapo agents. She moved safe house to safe house. She watched friends get arrested. Still, she stayed. Eventually, she was betrayed, captured, and tortured. But she never gave up a single name, never cracked. Even as she was transferred to Dachau and executed, her last word was defiance. She shouted, "Liberté." Number 7. Phoolan Devi, the bandit queen who fought back. In India, they called her the Bandit Queen, but Phoolan Devi wasn't just an outlaw, she was a survivor turned symbol of vengeance. Born in 1963 into a low-caste family, Phoolan endured unimaginable abuse from a young age. Child marriage, assault, exploitation, but her story didn't end in victimhood. She escaped, she picked up a rifle, and she led a gang of bandits into the forest of Uttar Pradesh, targeting upper-caste lords who had oppressed her community. Her most infamous act? The Baymai Massacre, where she allegedly executed 22 men, many linked to her earlier abuse. The message was clear, she wasn't afraid anymore. After years on the run, she surrendered on her terms. When she stepped off the train barefoot and holding her rifle, the crowd cheered. She spent 11 years in prison, only to emerge as a political force, later elected as a member of parliament. From revenge to representation, Phoolan Devi was both fury and hope. Number 6. Sophie Scholl, the student who challenged the Führer. She was just 21, a university student, a sister, a rebel with a conscience sharper than fear. Sophie Scholl wasn't a soldier, she didn't carry a gun. But in the heart of Nazi Germany, she became one of its fiercest dissidents. As a member of the White Rose, a nonviolent resistance group, Sophie helped print and distribute anti-Nazi leaflets across Munich. Her words urged Germans to wake up, to resist, to remember their humanity. In 1943, she and her brother were caught. During interrogation, she didn't flinch. Her last words before execution? "Such a fine sunny day and I have to go. What does my death matter if through us thousands of people are awakened and stirred to action?" Sophie didn't need decades to change history. She just needed courage and a voice louder than silence. Number 5. Sojourner Truth. Ain't I a Woman? Born into slavery, sold, beaten, separated from her children, Sojourner Truth had every reason to give up. Instead, she stood taller than any of the men who tried to break her. After escaping slavery in 1826, she became a preacher and speaker demanding abolition and women's rights in a time when black women were invisible in both movements. Her most famous moment? A speech delivered in 1851 at a women's convention in Ohio. Facing hecklers who dismissed her because of her race and gender, she raised her voice and asked the question that echoed across generations. Ain't I a woman? She used her own story, her strength, her motherhood, her scars to show the hypocrisy of a society that denied her both humanity and equality. Truth didn't just fight for freedom, she redefined what it meant. Number 4. Emmeline Pankhurst, the woman who wouldn't wait. Peaceful petitions weren't working. Letters to Parliament went unanswered, so Emmeline Pankhurst lit the match. Born in 1858 in Manchester, England, Emmeline Pankhurst was the face of militant suffragism. She founded the Women's Social and Political Union, a group that made headlines with its slogan, "Deeds, not words," and they meant it. They chained themselves to fences, they smashed windows, they disrupted political meetings. Emmeline herself was arrested multiple times, going on hunger strikes that led to brutal force feedings in prison. She believed that women's freedom would never be given, it had to be taken. Critics called her violent, dangerous, unfeminine. She didn't care. Better that we should die fighting than be outraged and dishonored, she said. Her fire helped light the way to victory. In 1918, British women finally won limited suffrage and just a decade later, full voting rights. She didn't live to see it all, but Emmeline made damn sure the world remembered her roar. Number 3. Malala Yousafzai, the girl who refused to be silenced. She was just a kid with a backpack, riding a bus home from school until a bullet tried to shut her up. Born in 1997 in Pakistan's Swat Valley, Malala Yousafzai grew up under Taliban rule, where girls' education was banned. But Malala didn't hide. At 11, she started blogging for the BBC under a pseudonym, documenting life under extremism and advocating for girls' right to learn. That made her a target. In 2012, gunmen boarded her school bus and shot her in the head. The world held its breath, but Malala didn't die. She came back stronger. She recovered, she moved to the UK, and she kept speaking louder than ever. At 17, she became the youngest ever Nobel Peace Prize laureate. Her activism helped millions of girls go to school, and her foundation continues to fight for global education. Malala once said, "One child, one teacher, one book, and one pen can change the world." She proved it. Number 2. Harriet Tubman, the conductor of freedom. They called her Moses, but Harriet Tubman didn't part seas. She crossed borders through swamps and forests under cover of night. Born into slavery in Maryland around 1822, Tubman escaped in her late 20s using the Underground Railroad, a secret network of safe houses and brave allies. But she didn't stop there. She went back, again, and again, and again. Risking her life every time, she led at least 70 people to freedom, including her own family, and she never lost a single passenger. But Harriet wasn't done. During the Civil War, she served as a spy and scout for the Union Army, even leading an armed raid that freed 700 enslaved people in one night. After the war, she fought for women's suffrage and founded a home for elderly African Americans. All this from a woman who couldn't read or write but rewrote history with her footsteps. She once said, "I never ran my train off the track, and I never lost a passenger." That's not just bravery, that's legend. Number 1. Joan of Arc, the warrior saint who changed the course of war. She wore armor into battle, she heard divine voices, and she led an army at 17. Joan of Arc was born in 1412 in Domremy, France, during the bloody 100 Years' War. A peasant girl with no military training, she claimed that saints had told her she was chosen to save France from English rule. It sounded insane until she actually did it. Joan convinced the uncrowned King Charles VII to give her command of his troops. She lifted the siege of Orleans. She turned the tide of a war that had seemed lost. But politics are cruel. Joan was captured by Allied forces, handed over to the English, and put on trial for heresy and witchcraft. Her crime? Dressing like a man and claiming divine inspiration. She was burned at the stake in 1431, just 19 years old. But death couldn't silence her. She became a martyr, a saint, and one of the most iconic symbols of courage in human history. Her fire still burns. If you found this story impactful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more untold truths from history. Thank you for watching She Serves.